everyone, it's Kristen here from Wild Birds Unlimited of Berrien Newmarket, and we are going to be talking about how to attract indigo buntings to your yard using some of the foods that they like. And to celebrate the occasion, I put on the bluest shirt I could possibly find to kind of mimic the male indigo bunting's plumage. So at this time of the year, we get a lot of folks getting in touch with us saying, oh my gosh, I saw this bright blue finch. I've never seen it before. How do I keep it at my bird feeders? And that's a great description of a male indigo bunting. So picture like something about the size of an American goldfinch, but bright electric neon blue. And that is a male indigo bunting. And quite often they're actually seen around the same feeders that the American goldfinches are on. So it's a great description to call them a blue finch. However, they're not actually finches. They belong to the Cardinalidae family, so they're actually in the same family as northern cardinals. But they do look a lot like a little finch, and they hang around at the same feeders where your finches are hanging out. So it's a great description, and I know exactly what someone's talking about when they say they saw a bright blue finch at their bird feeders. Here's something else that's interesting. So the male indigo bunting's plumage actually reflects the color blue. So if he's at the right lighting and at the right height for your eye, he's gonna look that electric blue color. But if he's a little higher in the tree or the lighting just isn't quite right, he might appear more brown or even black. I often see them when they are singing at the tops of trees, and they actually look black just because of the way the light is hitting their feathers. The female, on the other hand, is a little more subdued, so she's not the blue color. She's kind of like a tan brown color, but the same size. And actually, yesterday, I had one on my bird feeders, and I was walking by our window where this feeder was, and something caught the corner of my eye, and it hit my brain what it might have been. So I turned around and looked, and sure enough, it was a female indigo bunting. And I tried to get some photos. I took them through the window because indigo buntings don't seem to want to stay for my camera, so it's a real challenge to get a photo of them, but I did get a couple blurry ones through the window just as proof that she was on my feeders. So let's talk a little bit more about indigo buntings and how you can attract them. So there are 3 foods that they really like to eat in your yard. But before we get into what those foods are, I want to talk a little bit about when you're likely to see them. So indigo buntings, for a lot of folks, come during the migration. And of course, birds are hungry when they're migrating. They're looking for whatever is going to give them what they need, the energy they need to get through that migration back to their breeding grounds. And so they tend to visit bird feeders a little bit more during the migration than they do when they're on their breeding territory, when they eat a lot more insects in their diet. So when they are moving through, that's most often when we get reports of them. 1, because they're looking for food, but 2, they haven't quite settled in their nesting habitat yet. So they might be in other places where they aren't necessarily going to settle down for the spring and summer months, which might happen to be your backyard as they're passing through. So it's not unusual for folks to get them for a day or even a single visit or a couple of days before they take off and go to their breeding territories. So that's kind of sad that not everyone is going to be able to attract indigo buntings throughout the spring and summer months. And actually, if you had asked me 2 years ago before we moved into this house if indigo buntings were a feeder bird, I would have said, no way, you're never going to attract them all the time to your bird feeders. That's just not what they do. They want to be getting more of their food from nature, which is insects. But boy, was I wrong, and I am glad I was wrong, because since we moved into this house, we've actually been able to attract indigo buntings throughout the spring and summer months, basically until they migrate. So it's been really awesome. However, we do live in the right place for them to breed, which is forest edge habitat. So they really like forest edge habitat, and we're lucky that we have a couple tree lines that the males and females actually nest in at our house. So we have a couple of nesting pairs. So far I've seen 5 individuals this year, 2 females, 2 males, and then 1 immature male who is kind of patchy with his coloration. And they breed in our trees, so they're nice and close to the bird feeders, which is why they continue to come all through the warmer months. Now, if you are in the right habitat, you can attract these birds throughout the spring and summer. If you're not in the right habitat, you might be able to attract them during the migration, but it might be difficult to keep them. one of the ways you can figure out is look around. If you have that forest edge habitat, that's a really good clue, but also if you hear them singing. So the males are quite vocal, they repeat their songs over and over again throughout the day, and if you do hear them and recognize the call, that's a pretty good indication that you have indigo buntings breeding around your home, and you might be able to attract them to your bird feeders. So let's talk about the 3 foods that they really, really like. So one is white millet. And this is a seed that actually we usually don't recommend you offer in high quantities unless you are trying to attract sparrows or you're doing it for your doves. But indigo buntings happen to really, really like white millet, just like their cousins, the painted buntings. Some of our sister stores in the southern United States, they have painted buntings at their bird feeders there, and they feed them white millet. And of course, indigo buntings also share that love of white millet. So you could offer this on its own, or you could also offer it in a blend like our deluxe blend, or even better, our no mess LM, because they also love another food I'm going to show you in a second that's in that no mess LM. So yeah, white millet's a great way to feed indigo buntings. You'd want to include this in a tube feeder for your birds, and the doves and the sparrows will really appreciate it as well. But I wouldn't recommend that you offer too much of it during the spring and summer months, because sometimes it can attract some unwanted visitors like grackles. So you want to keep a little bit out in your bird feeders for those guys, but maybe not a ton unless you have it in a cage away from your blackbirds. All right, so another food that the indigo buntings absolutely love, Wild Birds Unlimited Finch Blend. So the Finch Blend is niger seed, which indigo buntings love, as well as fine sunflower chips. It's a mix. And quite often indigo buntings are found on niger or finch feeders because they really do enjoy these seeds, and their little beaks can get through those holes on the finch feeders. So this is another common food that people observe them eating, and I would strongly suggest you use the Wild Birds Unlimited Finch Blend, which is the mix of the niger and the fine sunflower chips, because their favorite food, hands down in our yard, sunflower chips. They go crazy for them all season long. Now they will primarily eat insects as their diet for most of the summer, and that's okay, but we do see them regularly throughout the day, a couple times at our sunflower chip feeders. So the feeder that they love is actually the one behind me. The Eliminator Squirrel Proof Bird Feeder is the one that they are always on. So we have 2 of them, and they visit this one quite often, and sometimes they also go to our finch feeders as well for the sunflower chip and niger mix, the Wild Birds Unlimited Finch Blend. But the sunflower chips, which is sunflower seeds, no shells, is probably, in my opinion, their absolute hands down favorite food. So offering this on its own, sunflower chips, or in a blend like our Wild Birds Unlimited No Mess blend. It could be the No Mess CD, which is the calcium blend, or the No Mess LM, which has millet as well as sunflower chips, would be an ideal thing to put in your bird feeders to encourage them. So hopefully by offering these 3 foods, you will be able to attract indigo buntings to your yard for a day or 2, maybe even longer if you live in the right habitat, which I hope you do, because they're a beautiful bird to enjoy. But you definitely want to have this stuff out during the spring right now while they're moving around the area and trying to figure out where they're going to stay, because you never know when an indigo bunting is going to show up. Well, that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and enjoy your indigo buntings this spring and summer. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.